The canyon trembled with the sound of wings. Dust swirled in great circles, and the mist glowed softly as dozens of dragons prepared to take flight. Lyra stood on the back of her dragon, gripping one of its neck ridges tightly. She had never felt air move with such power before. The wind from so many wings felt like a storm trying to lift her off her feet. Her dragon looked back at her with calm golden eyes. Even though its body was scratched and tired, it stood strong. Lyra placed her hand gently on its warm scales. "We have to hurry," she whispered. "The raiders will reach the colony soon." The ancient dragon, the leader, stepped forward. Its body was enormous, its wings stretching across half the canyon. It let out a deep, rolling call that made the stones tremble. One by one, the dragons responded with their own calls. It was like listening to thunder talking. Lyra did not know their language, but she felt the meaning: unity, protection, readiness. Then, with a single powerful leap, the ancient dragon launched into the sky. The others followed. One after another, the dragons rose from the canyon like a great storm lifting from the earth. Their wings beat in rhythm, strong, fearless, determined. Lyra's dragon crouched low, inviting her to hold on tight. She gripped the scales and pressed her body close. "Let's go," she whispered. The dragon sprang upward, its wings snapping open. The wind roared past her face as they rose higher and higher, leaving the canyon behind. The sky widened before them. Dragons filled it in every direction: silver, gold, black, red, flying with powerful movements that shook the air. From above, Area 9 looked both beautiful and fragile, the forest glowing faintly, rivers shining like blue lines, and the colony at the center, small like a handful of flickering lights. Smoke began rising again near the colony. Lyra's heart tightened. "They're already attacking," she said softly, fear creeping into her voice. The dragons heard her tone. They changed formation, flying faster, wings beating harder. Even wounded dragons pushed themselves forward. They were not flying for land or territory, they were flying for her and for the trust their kind had long forgotten to give Dot as they neared the colony. The sounds of battle grew louder: explosions, alarms, and distant screams. Myron ships hovered in the air like dark blades, firing steady beams of red energy at the colony's defenses. The colony's shields flickered weakly. Soldiers rushed to move civilians underground. Machines sparked, buildings shook, and fear spread through every street. The governor stood on the main wall, shouting orders. When he saw the growing shadows approaching the sky, his voice caught in his throat. At first, he thought it was a storm. Then he realized it was dragons, dozens of them, and at the front Lyra and her dragon, flying side by side with the ancient leader. The colony fell silent for a breath. Then Lyra raised her hand high, pointing at the raider ships. Her dragon let out a mighty roar, a roar that carried across the colony, the forest, and the sky. The dragon army answered with a roar that shook the world. The battle began. The ancient dragon attacked first, diving straight toward the largest Myron ship. It blasted red energy beams at the creature, but the ancient dragon twisted sharply, dodging with surprising speed. It slammed its tail into the ship, bending metal like soft clay. The ship spiraled downward and crashed into an empty field, exploding in a burst of orange flame. Other dragons dove at smaller raider ships. Some spat hot air like steam blasts. Others used their claws to tear into metal plates. The sky filled with streaks of fire, glowing wings, and broken machines falling from the clouds. Lyra held tight as her dragon flew directly toward a raider craft aiming at the colony's shield. At the last second, the dragon rolled, dodging a beam of red light. The blast hit a tree instead, splitting it in half. The dragon rose sharply, then dove downward, smashing into the raider ship's cockpit. The glass shattered, sparks flying. Lyra felt the impact shock through the dragon's body, but it held strong. The ship lost control and crashed outside the colony walls. "Good," Lyra cried. "You're amazing." Her dragon rumbled deeply, proud but focused. More raider ships arrived, sleek, silver, fast. They fired in waves. The dragons moved like a living shield, blocking the beams with their wings, claws, and bodies. Even when hit, they did not fall. They roared louder, pushing through pain. for the first time in Area 9's history. Dragons and humans fought on the same side. Soldiers fired from below, hitting the raider ships weakened by dragon strikes. The colony's cannons, damaged but still working, launched bursts of light that finished off wounded enemy craft. The Myran commanders saw the battle turning against them. Their ships began to pull back, engines glowing brighter as they prepared to escape into the sky. But Lyra's dragon was not ready to let them go. It soared upward, climbing fast until the thin air burned cold. The fleeing ship tried to accelerate, but the dragon slammed into its side with full force. Metal bent. Sparks flew. The ship spun uncontrollably. The dragon clawed at its engines, tearing wires and pipes loose. With one final strike from its tail, the ship exploded in a burst of red fire, pieces falling like burning stars. Lyra shielded her eyes from the flash. When the smoke cleared, her dragon glided back toward the colony, tired but victorious. Below, the raiders panicked. Without their main ship and with dragons destroying the smaller crafts, they had no choice but to flee. Their engines roared as they turned away from the battlefield, disappearing into the dark clouds. The battle was over. The dragons circled the colony once, letting out long roars of victory. The colonists erupted into cheers, fear replaced by joy, doubt replaced by hope. Families hugged each other, soldiers lifted their weapons in triumph, and children jumped up and down with excitement. Lyra's dragon landed gently in the center of the colony, its wings trembling from exhaustion. Lyra slid down its side and ran her hands over its warm scales. "You did it," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "You saved everyone." The dragon lowered its head, touching her shoulder softly. Its breath was warm, gentle, full of affection. The governor stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Lyra, your dragon saved our world, and you brought these creatures to us. We will never forget this." The other dragons landed around the colony. Some drank water from the river. Some rested near the houses. The ancient dragon bowed its head toward Lyra, recognizing her bravery. Lyra touched her dragon's snout. "We're family now," she said quietly. "You and me." The dragon rumbled warmly, accepting every word. From that day on, human and dragon lived side by side. The colony rebuilt with the dragon's help. They watched the skies together, guarded the forests together, and protected the world they all shared. And every morning, when Lyra walked through the colony, the dragon followed close behind her fearless shield, her loyal friend, and the greatest legend Area 9 had ever known. The battle left the colony shaken, but for the first time in hours, silence returned to the air. Smoke curled upward from broken buildings. Sparks flickered from damaged machines. People walked out slowly, checking their homes, their friends, their families. Some cried in relief, others hugged tightly, grateful to still be alive. But everyone's eyes kept drifting toward one place. Lyra stood beside the predator dragon in the center of the colony. Its wings hung low, tired and bruised. Several parts of its scales were cracked, glowing faintly from the heat of enemy blasts. Dust covered its claws. And yet, despite its wounds, the dragon stood tall, alert, protective, and ready if danger returned. Many colonists gathered at a distance, afraid yet amazed. They whispered to each other, unsure how to approach a creature they had feared their whole lives. Children hid behind their parents' legs but peeked out with awe. Soldiers lowered their weapons, confusion written on their faces. The governor walked forward slowly. His hand shook slightly, but his voice was steady. "Lyra, is it safe to come closer?" Lyra placed her hand gently on the dragon's side. "Yes, it won't hurt anyone. It only attacked the raiders." The dragon listened to her voice, then lowered its head and closed its eyes briefly, as if confirming her words. The governor cleared his throat. "Then we owe this creature our gratitude. Without it, the colony would have been destroyed." The crowd murmured softly. Some nodded. Some still looked fearful. But no one argued. Lyra felt warmth spread through her chest. She slowly stepped forward and addressed them. "It protected me in the forest. It protected all of us here. It knows we are not its enemies." Her words hung in the air, quiet but powerful. The dragon leaned down until its massive head rested gently near Lyra's shoulder. The entire colony gasped, even though she stood next to a creature that could crush metal. Lyra felt no fear, only trust. A medic approached carefully, holding a scanner. "Can I check its wounds?" he asked nervously. Lyra nodded, then turned to the dragon. "It's okay. He wants to help." The dragon watched the medic's slow steps. It sniffed the air, tense at first, but when Lyra placed her hand on its snout, the tension faded. It allowed the medic to approach. The entire colony watched in disbelief as the medic scanned the dragon's injuries. "It's hurt badly," the medic said. "Not enough to die, but enough that it needs rest and maybe help." Lyra looked up at the dragon with concern. "You saved us. Now we'll help you." The dragon lowered itself onto the ground, folding its wings carefully. For the first time since the battle, it relaxed fully. Lyra sat beside its enormous head, gently brushing the dust from its scales. But peace did not last long. A soldier ran toward the governor. "Sir, we found something in the raiders' wreckage." Everyone turned as the soldier held up a damaged panel, covered with blinking red symbols. "It's a tracker," he said breathlessly. The ship wasn't acting alone. It was marking our location. Lyra's heart dropped. The governor's face turned pale. "Are you saying more raider ships are coming?" "Yes," the soldier said. "A much larger force. And soon." The colony fell silent again. Fear crawled through the crowd. People knew they had barely survived the first attack. A second, larger one would destroy everything. Lyra looked at the sky, the same sky where the dragon had flown bravely. She turned back to her guardian friend, gently touching its scales. "What do we do?" She whispered Dot as if hearing her unspoken worry. The dragon opened one eye. It lifted its head slowly, despite the pain, and stared toward the mountains in the distance. It rumbled a deep, meaningful sound. Lyra understood instantly. "You know where to go," she whispered. "Don't you?" The dragon blinked once, firmly. The governor approached. "Lyra, what is it doing?" Lyra stood, turning toward him. "I think there are more dragons out there. Maybe it can call them. Maybe it can bring help." The people looked uncertain. Dragons were feared, but now they had seen one fight for them. Maybe others could too. The governor hesitated only a moment before nodding. "If there is even a small chance, we must try. Our weapons are too weak. We cannot survive another attack alone." Lyra touched the dragon gently. "Can you take me with you? I can tell them you're not alone anymore." The dragon lowered itself fully, inviting her to climb on its back. Its scales were warm, and its body shook slightly from exhaustion, but its spirit remained strong. Lyra climbed carefully, settling between the ridges of its neck. She felt small and fragile on its wide back, but she also felt safer than she had ever felt before. The crowd gasped as the dragon slowly rose, spreading its injured wings. Dust swirled around its feet. It took a deep breath and pushed upward, lifting off the ground with powerful beats. The colony watched as Lyra and the dragon rose into the sky, heading toward the distant mountains. The flight was rough at first. Pain made the dragon wobble slightly, but it kept flying. The wind grew cold as they climbed higher. Lyra held tightly, whispering encouragements. "You're strong," she said softly. "You can do this. I believe in you." The dragon rumbled deeply, as if answering her. They flew over forests, rivers, rocky cliffs, and glowing valleys. Lyra saw parts of Area 9 she had never imagined. Strange blue lakes, tall crystalline trees, herds of glowing animals running beneath them. Finally, the dragon began to descend into a massive canyon filled with swirling mist and strange echoes. Lyra felt her breath catch. Shapes moved in the fog. Dozens of shapes. When the dragon landed on a flat stone platform, the ground trembled. Lyra looked around, and her eyes widened. Predator dragons. Many of them. Some were larger than her dragon. Some were smaller. Their scales shimmered in different colors: silver, gold, obsidian black, deep red. Their eyes glowed like jewels in the mist. Lyra's dragon let out a deep call, long, powerful, filled with meaning. The other dragons responded with their own calls. Shaking the canyon walls, Lyra felt small, but she also felt something incredible. They were listening. Her dragon stepped aside, allowing the leader, a massive ancient dragon with shining blue scales, to approach. The leader lowered its head and sniffed Lyra gently. She stayed still, heart pounding. Then, to her shock, the ancient dragon bowed its head slightly. Lyra understood. They accepted her, and they accepted the bond she shared with her dragon. She pointed toward the sky, toward the direction of the colony. We need your help. The raiders are coming again. The dragons looked at each other. Then, slowly, one by one, they spread their powerful wings. The canyon filled with a rising storm of wind. Lyra could barely breathe as she realized what was happening. They were preparing to follow her, not as enemies, not as predators, but as allies. The dragon flew across the forest with powerful, sweeping strokes of its wings. As it rose higher, the wind howled against its scales, but it did not slow down. Its eyes locked on the rising smoke coming from the colony. Something dangerous was happening, something far worse than a simple forest threat. The dragon could sense it, like a deep vibration in the air. Back in the forest clearing, Lyra watched until the dragon became a silver dot in the sky. Her heart twisted with worry. She wanted to run after it, but she knew she could never keep up. The soldiers around her were already in panic, shouting orders, calling for backup, and rushing back toward the colony. Lyra followed them at first, running through the trees. But her thoughts were all on the dragon. Please be safe, she whispered as she pushed herself to move faster. Meanwhile, the dragon reached the sky above the colony. What it saw made it roar in pure anger. Strange metal ships, sharp, triangular, and glowing with red lights, hovered above the colony walls. These were not human ships. They belonged to something else, something violent. The Myran raiders, every creature in the forest feared the Myran. They captured animals, attacked outposts, and destroyed anything in their path. The dragon had seen them long ago. During a battle deep in the mountains, it remembered their smell, their machines, their cruel weapons, and now they were attacking Lyra's home without hesitation. The dragon dove down toward the nearest raider ship. The air screamed around its body as it picked up speed. The Myran ship fired a bright red blast, but the dragon twisted quickly, the beam missing by inches. Then, like a falling boulder, it slammed onto the ship's top. The metal cracked under the impact. The ship spun wildly, alarms blaring, sparks flying. The dragon ripped off a glowing control panel with its claws and threw it aside. The ship crashed into the ground outside the colony walls, exploding into debris. People below screamed, not in fear of the dragon, but in shock. A predator dragon was fighting for them. Inside the colony, chaos had broken out. Women pulled children into shelters. Men tried to help the guards. Machines sparked, alarms wailed, and smoke rose from burning structures. The governor shouted orders, but no one could hear anything clearly. Lyra reached the colony gate just in time to see another Myran ship firing at the food storage building. Flames shot upward. A group of guards tried to aim their rifles, but the ship's armor was too strong. Then a huge shadow crossed the ground. The dragon struck. It swept low, crashing into the side of the raider ship. The force made the ship wobble and fall sideways. The dragon landed on top of it, smashing the cockpit glass and sending the Myran pilot running. The dragon roared so loudly the air vibrated. The pilot stumbled back, terrified. Before fleeing into the woods, Lyra ran forward, breathless. You came back. The dragon turned toward her, its eyes glowing warmly. For a brief second, it crouched down, as if checking to make sure she was unharmed. Lyra gently touched its injured wing, noticing a deep scratch from the earlier battle. You're hurt, she whispered. The dragon gave a low rumble, almost dismissive. It didn't care about its own wounds. It only cared about protecting her. Suddenly, a huge blast hit the ground nearby, throwing Lyra off her feet. The dragon spun around and placed its wing over her like a shield. Dust and debris rained down, but she was safe under its protection. A larger raider ship descended from the sky, twice as big as the others, its engines glowing with dangerous heat. It hovered above the colony square, aiming its main cannon directly at the houses. The governor cried out, "Everyone take cover. It's going to fire." Lyra looked at the dragon with desperate eyes. "Please, help them." The dragon rose tall, spreading its wings wide despite the pain. It let out a thundering roar that echoed across the entire colony. Then it jumped into the air, heading straight for the large raider ship. The ship fired again and again, red blasts streaking across the sky. The dragon dodged with sharp turns, but one blast struck its side. It shrieked in pain but kept flying, pushing forward with fierce determination. Below, Lyra watched, hands shaking. Please don't fall, please. The dragon reached the ship's underside and tore at the cables and wires exposed near the cannon. Sparks flew everywhere. The cannon powered down. The ship wobbled, trying to stabilize. But the dragon rose above it, landed on its top, and struck with its tail. The blow was strong enough to send the ship spiraling. The huge raider craft crashed into the far field outside the colony, exploding into a fireball that lit up the sky. The entire colony went silent. People stared in disbelief. A dragon of feared predator had saved them. Children peered from behind shelters. Adults stepped out slowly, watching as the dragon flew back toward Lyra. Its body trembled with exhaustion, wings scraped and bleeding, but it landed steadily beside her. Lyra rushed to its side. Tears filled her eyes as she touched its scales. "You're so brave. You saved all of us." The dragon lowered its head gently to her shoulder. It exhaled slowly, tired but calm. Lyra pressed her forehead against its warm snout, whispering soft words of gratitude. The soldiers approached carefully. Many of them were speechless, unsure how to react. The captain who had aimed his gun earlier stared wide-eyed. "That creature protected us," he said quietly. The governor nodded slowly. "We owe it our lives." Lyra looked at them, standing protectively beside the dragon. "It's not a monster," she said firmly. "It has a heart. It understands trust." The dragon lifted its head proudly, letting out a soft rumble as if agreeing. The colony finally saw what Lyra had known from the beginning. This dragon was not their enemy. It was their defender, their shield. Lyra returned to the colony before sunset, but her mind was still lost in the forest. She walked between the small metal houses, feeling the warm glow of the day turning to evening. Colonists greeted her, but she barely heard them. All she could think about was the moment the dragon leaned its head toward her, calm and grateful. That memory stayed with her like a secret flame burning quietly inside. When she reached her home, her guardian sat in a chair, wrapped in a blanket. His cough sounded rough, but he smiled when he saw her. Lyra quickly boiled the glowing herbs and made him drink the warm mixture. Slowly, the coughing eased. Relief washed over her, but the dragon's face kept returning to her thoughts again and again. That night, Lyra lay awake. She stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep, replaying everything in her mind: the heavy breathing, the painful thorn, the warmth of the dragon's scales under her hand. She wondered where it had flown after she helped it. Did it remember her? Could a creature so powerful feel something like trust? She woke early the next morning, long before the colony's alarm bell rang. The sky was dim, painted with soft purple clouds. Lyra felt drawn toward the forest again, as if something was calling her. She did not tell anyone where she was going. She simply grabbed her bag and walked toward the gate. The guards looked tired, drinking warm tea as they watched the road. One of them warned her not to wander too far. Rumors that spread: several guards claimed they saw shadows flying over the forest the night before. No one knew what it was. Lyra kept her face calm, pretending she did not know. But inside, her heart beat faster. She wondered if it was the same dragon. Once she entered the forest, she followed the path she used the day before. She expected silence, but the woods were alive with soft chirps and rustling leaves. She kept walking, searching for the clearing where she met the dragon. But halfway through the forest, she felt something unusual. A soft vibration in the ground. A faint gust of warm air from behind her. She turned slowly. The dragon stood there. It was even more magnificent in daylight. Its silver-black scales shimmered like armor touched by sunlight. Its wings were folded, but even folded they looked huge. The dragon's eyes glowed a warm golden color, not the fierce, fiery orange from before. Lyra's breath caught in her chest. She wanted to speak, but the words disappeared. The dragon stepped closer, each movement heavy and strong. She held her ground, trying not to tremble. It lowered its head, bringing its snout near her shoulder again, just like before. It sniffed her clothes, her hands, and then made a deep, soft rumble. Lyra felt the vibration travel through her chest, calm and warm. "You came back," she whispered. It felt strange, talking to a creature that couldn't speak like a human. But something inside her told her that the dragon understood her feelings, even if not her words. For a long moment, they simply stood there, girl and dragon, in the quiet forest. Birds flew above them, and leaves drifted gently down. Lyra touched its scales. They were warm, smooth in some places, and rough in others. The dragon closed its eyes briefly, almost like enjoying the gentle touch. She thought it would fly away again, but instead, the dragon began walking slowly beside her. It moved carefully, staying just far enough not to scare her, but close enough to show it wanted to stay near. At first, Lyra did not understand what it was doing, but after a few minutes, she realized something surprising. It was following her. Just like a guardian, she continued walking deeper into the forest, collecting more herbs for her guardian. Every time she bent down to pick one, the dragon stood watch, scanning the area with sharp eyes. Even small forest animals scattered whenever it moved. The forest felt safer than ever before. Lyra could not hide her smile. She talked softly as she worked, telling the dragon simple things: how her guardian was getting better, how she found rare herbs, how the colony celebrated harvest last night. She knew the dragon did not truly understand her stories, but it listened, tilting its head slightly as if trying to understand her tone. Hours passed gently, but something changed when the sun reached its highest point. A sudden crack echoed in the distance like a tree being snapped in half. The dragon's head jerked up instantly. It let out a low, warning growl. Lyra froze. Then she heard voices. Human voices. The forest shifted as several colony guards pushed through the bushes, carrying energy rifles. Their faces were tense. They were hunting something. "Lyra?" One of them gasped when he saw her. "What are you doing out here?" Before she could answer, the guards saw the dragon standing protectively behind her. The guards panicked. "Stand back. Move away from it," the captain shouted, raising his weapon. Lyra jumped in front of the dragon. "No, don't shoot. It's not dangerous." The captain stared at her like she was out of her mind. "That is a predator dragon. They kill anything they see. Move aside." "No," she said firmly. "It didn't hurt me. It won't hurt anyone." But the guards didn't believe her. Their hands tightened around their weapons. The dragon sensed danger instantly and stepped forward, placing itself between Lyra and the soldiers. It spread its wings slightly, creating a wall of scale and muscle around her. Its tail curved close, forming a protective circle. The guards aimed their rifles. Lyra's heart pounded. She held her hands out, shouting, "Stop, please. It protected me. It's not the enemy." The forest went silent for a few seconds. Only the dragon's low rumble filled the air, warning sound, deep and powerful, before anyone could say more. Another sound shook the forest, a deep, distant boom. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Then a sharp, echoing whistle filled the air, far louder than anything natural. Lyra recognized the sound from old colony drills. It was a spacecraft weapon. The sky above the trees flashed with streaks of red light. Something was attacking the colony borders. The guards turned around in shock, weapons forgotten for the moment. Lyra stared at the distant smoke rising above the treetops. Fear wrapped around her chest. "The colony," she whispered. The dragon lifted its head, watching the smoke too. Its muscles tightened, its eyes glowing brighter. It sensed danger not from the guards, but from whatever was approaching. Without waiting for anyone's command, the dragon pushed its wings open. The powerful gust knocked leaves and dust across the ground. Lyra grabbed the dragon's scales. "You're going to help, aren't you?" The dragon lowered itself slightly, as if inviting her to climb on, or at least to stay close. Before the guards could understand what was happening, the dragon let out a mighty roar that shook the entire forest. Then it leaped into the sky, soaring toward the danger. Lyra watched in awe, her heart racing. She knew one thing for certain. The dragon was not the threat. The dragon was coming to protect her again. Lyra walked carefully through the tall bluegrass of Area 9's wild forest, holding a small bag close to her chest. She needed to find a rare glowing herb for her guardian, who had been coughing badly since morning. Most people in the colony avoided the deeper parts of the forest, but Lyra did not have a choice. She loved her guardian too much to let fear stop her. Still, every step made her hear her own heartbeat. The woods of Area 9 were known for strange sounds, strange shadows, and even stranger creatures. As she reached a quiet clearing, she heard a sound that froze her legs. It was not the cry of a bird or the rustle of leaves. It was a deep, painful rumble like something large was struggling to breathe. Lyra slowly crouched behind a thick tree. Her hands trembled as she peeked through the leaves, her breath caught in her throat. Not 20 steps away stood a predator dragon. It was enormous, much larger than any creature she had ever seen. Its scales shimmered like dark metal under the pale sunlight. Its tail, long and heavy, curled over the ground like a fallen tree. Its wings, folded tightly against its body, carried scars from battles she could not imagine. Every story in the colony talked about predator dragons as unstoppable beasts that attacked without warning. Even trained soldiers feared them. But something was different about this one. The dragon's head jerked sharply. Its chest shook with each breath. It scratched its snout against a sharp rock, groaning deeply. Its eyes shut tight, as if in terrible pain. Lyra had never seen a creature that powerful look so helpless. She could have run. She should have run. But instead, Lyra stayed still and whispered to herself, "It doesn't look angry. It looks hurt." The dragon opened one eye briefly. It did not look wild or hungry. It looked tired, confused, and desperate. Lyra slowly stood up from behind the tree. She felt her fear, but she also felt something else, something warm in her chest that pushed her forward. She took one step, then another. The dragon noticed her. Its wings twitched. Its tail dragged closer, ready to defend itself. Lyra stopped and raised her hands, palms open, trying to show she meant no harm. She remembered how the colony's medics approached frightened animals. Soft movements. No sudden steps. "It's okay," she whispered, even though she knew the dragon could not understand her words. "I won't hurt you." She walked closer until she could finally see the problem. A huge vine, thorn sharp and as long as her hand, was stuck deep inside one of the dragon's nostrils. Every time it breathed, the thorn pressed further in. No wonder it was in pain. Even the slightest movement must have felt terrible. The dragon shook its head, and dust scattered around its feet. Lyra took a deep breath and spoke again, her voice trembling. "I can help you, please. Just stay calm." The dragon's eyes, glowing a dim orange, locked onto her face. It breathed heavily, sending warm air across her hair. Lyra expected it to roar, or move away, or do something frightening. Instead, it simply lowered its head slightly, almost as if accepting her presence. She reached forward slowly. Her fingers touched the dragon's snout. It was warm, rough, and surprisingly soft in some places. The dragon exhaled, its breath shaky but calmer than before. Lyra wrapped her hand gently around the thorn. "This will hurt," she whispered. She counted silently. 1, 2, 3. With all her strength, she pulled. The thorn came out suddenly, and Lyra stumbled backward. The dragon flinched, letting out a loud roar of shock. For a moment, she feared she had done something wrong. But then the dragon inhaled deeply, smoothly, freely for the first time in a long while. The angry rumbling stopped. Its chest relaxed. Its wings loosened. And then something she could never forget happened. The dragon lowered its massive head toward her until its snout almost touched her shoulder. Lyra froze, her heart pounding wildly. But the dragon did not attack. Instead, it sniffed her gently, like an animal trying to learn her scent. Its eyes softened to a warm, glowing gold. It made a quiet, low sound, not a growl, but something closer to gratitude. Lyra smiled without realizing it. "You're welcome," she said softly. The dragon stayed still, almost peaceful. She could not believe how close she was standing to something that could crush a tree with one swing. And yet, she felt no danger from it. Only a strange connection, fragile but real. She had helped it, and the dragon understood. After a long moment, the dragon unfolded its wings. The sudden movement sent a burst of wind across the clearing. Lyra shielded her eyes as it pushed off the ground with a powerful leap. It rose into the sky, circling above her once before flying toward the distant mountains. Lyra stood alone again, staring upward until the dragon disappeared into the clouds. She expected her fear to return, but it didn't. Instead, she felt something new, a quiet warmth inside her chest, like a spark waiting to grow. She picked up the glowing herbs she had collected earlier and walked back toward the colony. The forest felt different now, not safer, but not as frightening as before. She kept replaying the moment in her mind, the dragon's eyes, the gentle breath, the soft rumble of gratitude. She knew no one in the colony would believe her if she told them. They would laugh, or panic, or call her foolish. Predator dragons were supposed to be cold-hearted beasts, but she had seen something else. She had touched something else. And somewhere above the clouds, a predator dragon carried the memory of a small human girl who removed a thorn from its nose. Lyra did not know it yet, but that small act of kindness would change her entire life, and the fate of the whole colony.